challenging part of being a refugee is you don't have an identity. As a refugee, that child passed away, our second child. And I questioned God for 1 week. I was asking God, why do you have to do this to me? And there was a time I told my dad, I said, Dad, I'm cooking. He said, what? You cooking? I said, I don't only cook, but I wash dishes. I clean the house. He said, is that the life in Australia? And I told him, Dad, if you come here and you are fortunate to have one wife, you are going to be cooking, cleaning, and taking care of your children. He said, then
I don't want to come.
Please don't ever think of trying for me to come because I want to stay where I am.
What was the most challenging part of being a refugee? Welcome to It Is Still Possible. It Is Still Possible is a talk show that explores the incredible stories of resilience, hope, and triumph in the face of adversity. Today we are talking about From Struggle to Strength. This series explores the stories of individuals that have transformed their struggles into stories of strength and motivation. This is episode 1, and on today's episode, we are having a special guest who has been a tremendous blessing to my life and to the lives of many people around the world. Our guest for today is a former refugee from a civil war-torn country of Sierra Leone. He migrated to Australia in 2006 with his beloved wife. He's an amazing father to 5 children. He's a public speaker and a proud citizen of Australia. Before our guest share briefly about himself, I want to share some key inspirational acknowledgement within the Australian community. In 2011, he was a recipient of the Human Rights Award for engaging with the culturally and linguistically diverse communities in Tasmania. In 2012, he received the Vice Chancellor's Leadership Award at the University of Tasmania. And in 2014, he was the recipient of the Citizen of the Year Award in Tasmania, and he was awarded the Champions Award for promoting the African community in Tasmania. Viewers, it is with great pleasure that I introduce to you our guest for today, Mr. Faya Isaiah Lahai, as we journey through this episode From Struggle to Strength. Welcome, Mr. Lahai.
Thank you for having me.
I would like to take this time to, truly honor you for accepting our invitation, to share, your journey on this platform. And I believe that, you sharing your journey with us is going to be a tremendous blessing to me personally and to our viewers out there. So I just want you to feel free. And as we're having this discussion and sharing your experiences, knowing fully well that, someone is on the other side that's going to be inspired and they're going to be blessed through your sharing. On that note, I would like you to share a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Well, my name is Isaiah Lahai. I was born in the Republic of Sierra Leone, but I grew up in Liberia in 1989 December. When the Civil War entered Liberia, I was asked to return to my father in Sierra Leone. Unfortunately, in 1991, after a brief entry into Sierra Leone, the civil war that started in Liberia entered into Sierra Leone, which generated a huge migration of people from that part of Sierra Leone, and I was among those that fled into exile. I was a refugee for 14 intense and horrible years.
I know we'll get to that part about your where you're going to share with us your experience as a refugee. But for now, I just want to ask you this question just to get to know you better. What is your favorite childhood memory, if you have any, to share with us?
I do have a lot of favorite childhood memory, but one that strikes most is watching my father involved into religious activity, being a Christian. And at a very tender age, I used to see my dad. He will pray over 10 times a day. When he's leaving the house, he will pray.
Yeah.
When he come back, he will pray. And I watched him And in our generation, especially from my father's background, he was the only one among a family of 6. He was the only one that knew Christ. And it was a challenge for him. But then through that challenge, I observed him to only rely on prayer. And that piqued my interest. And I really glued myself to prayer from that tender age to now. I can't feel confidence if I'm leaving my house without praying, and I can't feel safe if I go back home without praying.
It has become your second nature.
It is like in my DNA. So that's a very powerful childhood experience and memory that have been attached to me from, I could say, from birth. And the more I age, the better it is. And I am hoping and praying that I can transfer that to my children. If there's any legacy they should have, is knowing Christ, which is the bedrock of our faith.
That's an interesting one. And I mean, you sharing this, personally, I witnessed this, and I see you, practicing this day to day, like in your day to day life. Before you enter the car, you pray. Before you start the engine, and you pray, which is a very important aspect of our life, most especially as believers. And thank you very much for sharing that. Now, this is where our journey for today start, our discussion. I want you to share with us your journey as a refugee, or some of your experiences as a refugee.
Well, at a very young age, 14, I remember in 1991, on the 23rd of March, on a very unfortunate Saturday morning, I was roaming about our neighborhood in Sierra Leone, and in the mid-afternoon, around 2:30, I returned home and I discovered the doors to my parent home, everything was locked. At the age of 14, I was left to make an informed decision, either to stay and be killed or run away and live. To the glory of God, I choose to run. And that is one of the best decisions I've made in my life. Because I remember some of my childhood friends that were very close to me. We used to do things together. They stayed back and they were killed.
They lost their lives.
Yes, they lost their lives because in the Civil War, especially a brutal one like the one that was fought in Sierra Leone, these guys will ask you to either join them or get killed. And if you are unfortunate to join them, they will introduce you to drugs, they will introduce you to killing. And if you don't want to kill, then they'll kill you. So fortunately for me, I ran. It took me 3 days running on foot from one place to another. I never even knew where we were going. And I lost contact with my parents. I was just running wherever I see people running for 3 days. And then we crossed into Guinea, which is a neighboring country to Sierra Leone. I was moving from one place to another, looking out for my parents. Fortunately, I found my mom. That was the most joyful part of my memories in life, because I thought all hope was gone. I thought I would never see them again. But then I found them, and a new chapter opened, which led to us being refugees for 14 years. And we changed 5 refugee camps. And each of these refugee camps had a new experience.
Of course,
It's like moving from kindergarten to primary and to secondary and university. And that was exactly what happened. And my life journey as a refugee was a complex one, because when it comes to like education, I never had the opportunity to standard education. My worry was now my children. If I could not go to school, what would be the fate of my kids? And the only thing that kept us going as refugees is hope, and also community connection. Because when I share my story with you, and then I listen to your story, your story may even be more terrible than mine.
Yeah.
So that keeps us believing that
Yes,
if this person's story was more terrible than my own, I have to keep believing that there is hope. Luckily for me, I met my wife in the refugee camp, and we got together in the year 1997. I was very young by then. We started moving to 2000. We had our first child, and in 2002, we were able to have another child. Unfortunately, in 2003, that child passed away, our second child. And I questioned God for 1 week. I was asking God, why do you have to do this to me? You gave me a child and you took her away. But in the process of asking God, I came to the realization that I need to listen to God rather than just asking Him why.
Yeah.
So one day I was sleeping and a voice spoke into my hearing that open your eyes and watch. And I did. And I saw a child on the floor. She was crawling, she could not walk. And I believe my child that died was walking at that tender age. She could run and come and jump into my arms. But this child I saw could not walk. And she was calling me, Daddy, please come and take me. And a voice came back to me that you have been asking God for a week. Why? Why He took your child? Say the child you have been asking for, that would have been the fate of that child.
Yeah.
That struck me to the core. And I started asking God to forgive me for not believing and not putting my full trust in Him. And from that day, I came to the conclusion that regardless of what I face in life, God is supreme. He has the final say to everything I am.
Yeah.
And that was a powerful lesson.
And I would like to interrupt you there. And I believe there is someone watching me. Maybe their case may be different, but they are in the particular situation where they're asking God, why? Why me? Why me? At this, maybe because of what's happening in their life. Like similar to what you went through, you had those questions. It is a human tendency to ask those questions. But having gone through such experience and having that encounter with God where He told you that this was going to be the outcome, what are the words of encouragement that you can give to someone? Maybe they're asking themselves similar question, God, why me? Why do you allow this to happen to me?
So all those listening to me, I want you to know that the God that created us has a purpose for each of us. Because in my case, when my second daughter was taken away, I thought that was the end of everything. But to the glory of God today, I have 5 children. And I even have to decide to myself that I'm no longer going to have kids.
This is enough.
And this is enough. And I knew it was because of the grace of God.
Yeah.
And if you are going through similar thing that I went through or even beyond what I have gone through, I want you to wholly and solely rely on God and glorify His name because He is doing something. And He is doing something new that your eyes and your mind may not comprehend now. But if you give it to Him and believe that He can make a way where there seems to be no way, I am absolutely 100% believing that He can make you a new person and He can turn your story around.
Amen.
Never give up on God.
Yeah.
I never give up, even though at a tender age, I was wrestling with God, just like Jacob wrestled with God. But when I saw that vision in a very clarity, in a dream, I came to the conclusion that God can never do something without a purpose.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that and for sharing that, giving those words of hope. Now back to your experiences as a refugee. What was the most challenging part of being a refugee? I know you spoke about you not having access to education. Of course, like as a refugee moving from one camp to another, like security, safety, all these things come to play. And you starting the family afresh, being in a different country, where leaving everything in the hands of God because you know today you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. What was the most challenging part of being a refugee?
The most challenging part of being a refugee is you don't have an identity as a refugee.
Yeah.
And I always tell people the title refugee is not a good title because when you are categorized as a refugee, you have no rights.
Yeah.
You have no identity. Wherever you are taken, you have no authority over whatever that you make there.
Yeah.
All your decisions are made by people. And you are also at risk of being killed. And according to the United Nations Convention on Refugees and Asylum Seekers, the 1951 convention, it states that refugees are people who are running away from persecution. Some could be for religious reason, political reason, cultural reason, most importantly, war.
Yeah.
And when I was faced with the title of a refugee, I ran because of war. And if I could stay, I was going to be killed. So being a refugee is not a good title. And there is only, I believe, one path we could take to stop people being refugee. We need peace in this world.
Yeah.
Many nations are suffering because there are people making decisions
On their behalf.
And those decisions are not really looking at the need of these people. And because of that, they are displaced. Some have internal displacement, wherein even though you are in your country, but you have no rights. You are taken away from your home and you are taken somewhere that you don't know. And some have international displacement, wherein you are taken out of your country into another country. Like in my case, they took us to Guinea, even though I went there on my own, but the war took me there.
Circumstances, yeah, took you there.
So they took us in the bush and they tell you, this is where you belong. They give you machetes, they give you building materials, build your own house.
Yeah.
You don't have right to farm. You don't have right to education. The only people that will give you that right is the United Nations. And if the United Nations do not feed you, you have nothing to eat. I experienced that for 14 years. And it's not like when they say refugees are taking, they are going to be put in a hotel or they give them luxury. No, they are taking you in the bush. They will bring plastics. They give you materials and building tools for you to build your own house.
Yeah, trampoline.
Yeah, they call it camp.
Yeah.
Being in the refugee camp, when it rains, you are not sleeping because it's going to rain on you, especially if you do not have the expertise to properly build your house. It's a problem and it's a nightmare. And most of all, you don't have any standard medical facilities. And that was one thing that struck me because in refugee camp, there is no hospital to say that this is a hospital for maternity, especially for pregnant women and little kids. No, these things are luxuries for refugee. So it's not a good experience to live as a refugee. You don't have any agenda on your own to say today, okay, I really want to travel today to this other place because I am free. No, refugees don't have that freedom. And they don't even know where they are going. When I go do public speaking, I tell people, I never choose to come to Australia. They brought me here. And that's because of refugee crisis and war. If I had the opportunity to choose where to go, maybe Australia was not going to. And in fact, in those days, in the early 2000s, many people never thought of Australia. Many people wanted to go to the United States. But today, I want to tell Australians, thank you for giving us this opportunity to call Australia home. This place is not heaven, but if you work hard, you can make a better future for yourself and your family.
And that's where actually I'm coming now. You know, you've gone through these experiences. We are in this new environment, in our home, Australia. And I have two questions for you regarding that. So, what's the most rewarding aspect of you being a citizen of Australia? The most rewarding aspect, and then the second aspect to that question, or the second question is, what contribution have you been able to make in the community of Australia as your own contribution for the advancement of this nation?
The most rewarding thing of being a citizen in Australia is being called a citizen and taking off the garment of a refugee.
A refugee, yeah.
That gave me relief. It gave me happiness.
Yeah.
Because if you are called, oh, those are refugees, your category means you still don't have a right.
An identity, yeah.
You don't have an identity. But being able to become a citizen, I knew in 2009 that I have an identity, I have a voice, I know my rights, and I also have responsibilities.
Yeah.
As a citizen, I have a responsibility to be a good citizen, to vote, to give a voice to the development of Australia.
Yeah.
And I also knew that I have a right to do what other people are doing, to live at peace, and to go to work, go to school, develop my family, and have a place I call home.
Yeah.
Refugees don't have those luxuries.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was one of the greatest achievements, becoming a citizen. When I stood in that beautiful council hall in Tasmania, and I saw the mayor of Tasmania giving me the certificate of citizenship.
It was a joy.
It's like my whole complex changed. I became a new person that day.
Did you have any flashback about the camps?
Oh, yes, I had a lot of memories coming. I even cried that day. People saw me crying, and one of the council members asked me why they are giving you citizenship and you are crying.
Should be the most happy day.
I told them the tears you saw are not tears of sorrow, but tears of joy.
Yeah.
I was reflecting on what I went through, the disadvantages that were done to me. And today, for me to have this right, that I am now part of this great nation, Australia, was amazing for me. And I thank Australia for giving us this opportunity to be part of this wonderful multicultural nation called Australia.
That's a very brilliant one. The second aspect of that question, what are some of the contributions that you are making, towards the betterment of this country or the community in which we are now living?
When I remember the words of Martin Luther King, the most incredible person that I know that ever lived, he said in his speech, one of his speeches, he said, I want to build a society wherein one day my 4 little children will not be called by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. When I analyze that statement, it tells me if I want to see a better Australia, I have to be part of building that better Australia.
Yeah.
So my coming to Australia as on humanitarian grants do not limit my potential of being part of the society.
Yeah.
When I gained citizenship in 2009, I told myself, now is the time for me to build that society wherein my 5 little children will not be called by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Yeah.
I took upon myself to first develop myself, because you cannot potentially contribute to something you are not strong to contribute to.
Yeah.
So I will tell viewers out there, if you are listening, in everything you are doing, develop yourself first. How do I do that? In my generation, from great-grandparent to my own parent, nobody in my family ever went to high school. And I never had that luxury either to go to high school until when I came into Australia as an adult now. the only thing I could do is to rely on the support of good people. They took me to a university called the University of Tasmania in Hobart. The first day they took me there, they took us on a tour, library tour. When I saw the airport and the library,
got overwhelmed.
The library had thousands of books. This is not an exaggeration. I fainted.
Yeah.
It was so terrible for me and so fearful. I fell on the ground. They called an ambulance. They asked what happened to him. When they revived me, they asked me what happened. I said, this is not where I belong. Yes, I told them this is not where I belong because I've never seen this many books in my life. All I knew, my dad was not a millionaire, but he was well enough for us to live a comfortable life. And I never had that luxury to say I will go to university. No. So for them to introduce me to such pathway was a massive step. However, the good nature of Australia saw me being supported. I went through what they call university preparatory program, especially for immigrant adults who had limited academic background. So I went through that preparatory program. It gave me a foundation to know what goes on in university learning. To the glory of God, at the end of 4 years, I studied Bachelor of Social Work, and I was one of the top students, which led the university to induct me into the Golden Key Award Hall of Fame as being one of the best performing students. I was with high distinctions in my division in 2014, and I was also given an award by the Vice Chancellor of Tasmania, one for my leadership because I used to be like a bridge between refugee student and the university, guiding them through the university preparatory program, which I went through. So my development started from there. When I graduated in 2014, I told myself, I know where I'm coming from. And for viewers out there, never forget your background. Always think of where you are coming from. Don't look at yourself today where you are and forget where God took you from. Always be reflective of your background. And that's exactly what I did. So in 2012, I started telling myself I need to do something. To give back to the society. And secondly, to also help back home. So I started charity work. I first started with volunteering in the community to the extent I got involved into the state government of Tasmania. I was selected as an advisor on the Premier and Cabinet Board for Multicultural Affairs. They saw my contribution towards that. I became a voice for the refugee community in Tasmania. Every week they'll pull me on TV to share my opinion. And then from there, when they noticed how passionate I was with what I want to see happen in Tasmania, I was selected as People of Australia ambassador to represent Tasmania at federal level on multicultural affairs. So I used to go to Canberra every month at the federal government to represent Tasmania on multicultural affairs. Especially in 2012 and 13, I was involved into that. So when I saw my level rising, I decided that this is the time for me to do something with my future. So what I did, I started charity work, supporting vulnerable kids, because I knew where I came from. I knew how tough and difficult it was for me to go to school. Even though my father was not well off, but he
did what he could
he
do.
did what he could to send us to school, but it was tough.
I will like to interrupt you here. There is a point that you mentioned that is very, very important to me. because I personally I can relate to that, and which has to do with adults. You know, they may not be in Australia, they may be everywhere, but they get to a certain stage in life where they feel like I'm too old to make a difference. I'm too old to go to school. It may not be just going to school, but I'm too old, to make a difference in the community. I'm too old to make an impact. You came to Australia. As I say, I can relate because I know when I came to Australia, I felt like, oh, going to school is too late for me. But I say, you know what, age is not going to stop me. So now we have viewers, that may be in that situation of feeling like, oh, I'm too old to make a difference. I'm too old to go back to school. I'm too old to do this. What advice would you give to such?
I would tell viewers knowledge is key. Without knowledge, you can't do anything.
Just little you can.
And age is not a barrier. I remember in my university days, I had a very old friend at the age of 70. He was in my psychology class. We used to do psychology together. And this old man, I asked him one day, at your age, you should be in age care. Why did you choose to come back to university? He told me, son, knowledge is power. And I have nothing left to do in life, but knowledge cannot be a barrier for me to just go to age care. And he was so committed, and he's one of the people that motivated me to really know that age is not a barrier. And your lack of education is not a barrier to learn in Australia. As long you are determined, focused, and ready to do a new thing, you can do whatever you choose to do. And that really gave me strength. So anyone out there who is thinking I'm too old, I can't go back to school, they have what they call adult education. They have also tutoring program for mature age students. And don't even think that only you coming from maybe a different background that is going through that. I have many, many Australian friends who were born here, but they never went to school, and they do adult education. And most of them, they go through the adult education program and they become influencers in our society. And you have to do that for your family. You have to lay the benchmark. If you are a father or a mother listening to me now, I want you to know that you are not done with. God still have a plan and a purpose for you.
And you can still take the chance now.
Oh, yes.
It is never too late to take.
It's never too late. If it was, then I would have been one of those people that would say it is done. But even now, if I was not to, like now, being a father of 5 children and married to one wife, I would have chosen to go back to university to even get a doctorate, because education to me is the key to opening every door. And that was one of the things that motivated me to support vulnerable kids. And as we speak, I have over 200 children that are under my care in Africa, supporting them with education. I build schools to support humanity, because there is one thing in life: whatever that goes into you is not your own. But whatever you give out to people, that is your own. Because you have to build a legacy for there to be a sustainable society. I cannot be living a good life while the next person in my neighborhood is not living a good life. That doesn't make a difference for me. I have to make sure if I'm living a good life, the next door neighbor is also living a good life. And that would be like a very good thing for my own children. And that's why I choose to invest into people, and also invest into programs that elevate the structural setting of our society. Australia is a multicultural nation. All of us bringing our values, our cultures, our identities is what make this nation what it is. So don't be afraid. Language should not be a barrier. When I go to public speaking, I tell them English is my fourth language, and I don't even know how to speak English. But yet still, I am brave and bold enough to stand in front of thousands of people and tell them my story. Tell your story. Don't be afraid to share your story. If there's anything Australia is good for, When you share your story with Australian, they walk with you in your shoe.
Yeah, that listen to, and that's actually true. So take the opportunity. Don't allow your age or whatsoever to be a barrier to you from making an impact. Now, you share a lot here, on this platform today, and there may be someone watching. They may not have gone through some experiences as being a refugee, but they may have gone through some challenging experiences, or maybe currently they are going through some challenges. What advice or word of encouragement, word of hope can you give to someone that may be going, through challenges? You have gone through a lot, you have experienced a lot. And, we are here talking not just about the challenges, but overcoming those challenges. You did not allow those challenges to hold you down, to step you. But today, where you are sitting down, some of these things, the challenges, the experiences that you went through, they build you up. You are stronger than you were before. You are determined than you were before. What advice or word of encouragement can you give to someone that may be going through challenges at this moment?
One of the logic I always hold on to, there is no testimony without testing. You cannot testify if you do not allow testing to enter you. If you are going through challenges, those challenges are not meant to break you, but they are meant to build you up. They are a learning process. I remember in my own very life, when I used to go through extreme tough time, sometimes even people I helped, they would turn against me. And then I used to really complain all the time. I will look at it and I say, but this life is not fair. How can I be helping people and they are turning against me? Until one day I came to the realization it's a pathway to what God wants to do in my life. For you to testify,
you must be tested.
You must be tested. The challenges we go through are a bridge God is using to take us through to the other side. What is that other side? Some of us are aspiring to become public figure. Some people may be aspiring to become business people. Some may be aspiring to become people that impact lives. And the devil is not asleep. Satan is a very, I could say, smart being that God created. If anybody says, Satan is this, is that, they have not been tested by Satan. The devil has logic to view your future and know where you are going. And if you are not strong in God, you may not achieve your goal. So when you notice changes in your life, lot of temptations or trials coming your way, know that the path to your destiny is not far. But you have to persevere. That is number one. And you have to believe in God. That's
very important.
Suffering, pain, struggles we endure for a night, but surely joy will come in the morning. And you also have to put all your trust in God. Never rely on your own understanding, as Proverb tells us. Always believe that God is able to turn your story around. I remember I was born in a polygamous home. My mother had 11 of us. Out of 11, 8 of my siblings died. And out of the 3 of us that are alive, I am the only one that can properly talk and hear. My elder sister, who is the reason why I'm in Australia, she is deaf, she is partially mute, and she had a complex medical condition, even though she wasn't born like that. And our younger brother back home is similar to my sister. The devil knows how to target families. And so don't think what you are going through today, others have not gone through. People have gone through multiple things. Coming from a polygamous background, my father had 7 wives, and I have over 45 siblings. Some of my siblings, I don't even know them. But today, I'm the only one the family is relying on with my sister here. Out of the testing that we are going through, we are still able to support the very family. And sometimes the very family you are supporting will turn against you.
Yeah.
But never stop doing good. Because there is a saying I always tell people, evil can only prevail when good people stop talking.
Yeah.
Evil prevails when good people stop talking. So never stop doing good because one person has done evil to you or one person has paid you back for the good you did to them. Doing good is sowing seed, and those seed, they will multiply in the future, if not in your own time, but in your children's time. Yeah. Those seed will bear fruits. Definitely. And when they do bear fruits, you will harvest. So I believe when you are going through testing, it is even the time you should persevere. It is the time you should carry on and believing that this is my destiny and I will fight for it with all my might and rely on God for the result. That is what I believe.
Thank you very much for sharing that with our audience, and keep going. And there are people that have been through what you have been or what you may be currently going through. You can learn from them, and you keep going, being strong. Thank you very much for sharing that. And the last thing I would like to know or hear from you today on the lighter note is what is your proudest or your most proudest achievement? Something when you think about it brings joy to you. You may have many, you listed few things here, but what is one thing that whenever you think about it brings joy?
Well, my most proudest achievement in life is being able to be called a father. It's not an easy task, especially in refugee camps where life was more or less a misery. You cannot afford to eat on your own, and then you have 2 children to care for. Yeah. That was a very, incredible moment where I thought it was the end. But to be able to get out of that strong and being able to have children and they are all grown up, I could say. Yeah. And I would sit down and see them, everyone thinking of what they want to do with their life, is something that I cannot thank God much for because it is absolutely not by my might, neither it is by my own strength, but for His glory. Yeah. And also being able to have one wife is a big challenge because in our culture, people will say, whatever you see your father doing, you will also do.
Yeah, you follow the footsteps.
You follow the footsteps of your father. If your father is a drunkard, when you grow up, you become a drunkard. If they are polygamists, when you grow up, you also will follow the footsteps. But then I told myself, if this is a family curse, I really want to break out of it. And the devil is very cunning.
Of course. Yeah.
If you are determined to choose a pathway that you believe is good for you, if the devil tries you and is not successful, they will go through the very people that you are close to. Yeah. And that happens into my life. When I choose to be a husband of one wife, the devil say, okay, let's try and see how that will go. Many years I've gone through terrible testing in my marriage. Sometimes I will even say,
begin to question.
Yeah, am I really the husband that God said I should be? Or am I really the father that God wants me to be? But it came a time I reflected on myself, and I said, I think the devil is trying to reshape my destiny to become like what my father's destiny is. And I don't want to go that pathway. So there are times in your adventures in life, you have to sacrifice. For example, if you're coming from a generational background where terrible things have happened in your family or where majority of your family don't know God, you have to be the sacrificial lamb. Like I told myself, if I cannot sacrifice to make sure that what my father went through, I will not go through it. And my children will not go through it. Yeah. If I don't sacrifice for that, who will do it?
Very important.
If I go through what my father went through, the tendency of my own son or children
Repeating
going through it is there. But now, at my age, and in this very moment, I can see a light that majority of what my father went through, my son will not go through it. Because I have bridged that gap and he is seeing it. And for us parents out there, if you are a father or a mother, I want you to know you are a mirror. And that mirror is what your children views every day when they wake up. They view themselves in you as their mirror. Whatever you do is going to reflect on their own life. So if you are a father and you came from a polygamous background like myself, and you don't want your children to be like your father, it is your duty to make sure that you break that yoke by you taking a stand and say, I'm not going to be like my father. I will marry one wife regardless of what the devil does. And it happened in my life. I know there were times, to the extent, there were times the love of my life will even look at me in the face and say, I don't think you are my husband. Oh, yes, those things happen to me much more. And then I will look at her and say, you know what? I accept for now, but I believe you are my wife.
Yeah.
And those are testing. There were times I will even go to the extent, think this is not working. Let me find another way. But then I ask myself, if I go finding another way, it means the
Indirectly
devil
going back to what you are running from.
Great. So there is no good family, there is no bad family. You have to work on it to make it good or bad. That is my advice. And I cannot thank God much for the grace He put on me. At my tender age, women used to fight on me. I remember in the refugee camps where we had nothing to do but just to sit around. Women used to come to my wife begging her to share me. And she was young, and she had no money. And those that had money, they have businesses. They buy clothes for my wife, they buy clothes for me, they give us food. And ignorantly, I will say, I'm a big boy, do terrible stuff. Until when we came to Australia, there was a day one of those women called, and then she said she want to talk to me. My wife, she heard the phone. She said, I'm in charge. That was struck me. She said, I'm now in charge. That was when I knew, I think
Things have changed,
there is a shift I have to make too. And in life, change is the key to our future. You have to change for things to happen. You can't say, oh, my father will never tolerate a woman talking over him. Australia is a different story. There was a time I told my dad, he called me and I was in the kitchen cooking. And he asked me, what are you doing, son? I said, Dad, I'm cooking. He said, what? You cooking? I said, I don't only cook, but I wash dishes. I clean the house. He said, is that the life in Australia? And I told him, Dad, if you come here and you are fortunate to have one wife, you are going to be cooking, cleaning, and taking care of your children. He said, then
I don't want to come.
Please don't ever think of trying for me to come because I want to stay where I am. He told me that. I laughed. I said, I see, this is why I'm trying to break the yoke. Because
the mindset, the mentality.
Yes. At the end of the day, viewers, we are on a journey. And everyone on this journey has a destination. And we all don't have the same destination.
Definitely.
You are on the train. The train is just moving. The train is not going to stop for you alone. The train has multiple stops, and that is life. When you come into this earth, you are in transit. And when the time reaches for your destination, sometimes we don't even know our destination. That is to say, don't ever pay evil for evil because you are on a journey and the journey is short. Forgiveness is the key to the pathway of our salvation. Because if you don't forgive people, how long have you got to live in this earth? If you say, this is me, I own everything, how long have you got to hold on to those things? When you die, they are no longer taking you home. They stay mortuary. When you are taken, they are not putting you in your Ferrari. They say ambulance. If you are taken to the hospital, they're not putting you into your mansion. They say morgue. And where is the morgue? They have the poor, the rich, the mad,
Everyone,
the criminals. Everyone is, there is no
distinction there.
Distinction in the morgue. In the grave, there is no distinction. To say that's the grave for the president, no. Grave is grave. Yeah. So our duty of care while we are in transit, leave a legacy. Do something that when you are gone, people will look on it and say, yes, indeed, this person was around. That's why I always throw myself back to Jesus Christ and Nelson Mandela, because these figures, they did not just live life, but they impacted lives. And even though, like Mandela is gone now, but his legacy lives on. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, he is alive. Even though he was briefly physically killed by the very people he came to save, but his legacy is still alive. And he is surely coming back for me and you. So be good.
Thank you very much for that. And I know this was not part of the plan, but I'll give you 2 minutes for you in terms of the impact that you are making, and most especially with the school, like the children that you are supporting back home. And I know that is a great thing to do, most especially you being here. It is easy for you to think, this is a moment, the opportunities I didn't have back, when I was a refugee. Now it's my time to enjoy. But you say, no, this is the time, in fact, for me to start the opportunities that I did not get, for me to give other people that, that are struggling. But I really want to know, like, what inspired you about helping people? Just use 2 minutes just to give us like that insight, because we're going to organize time to really talk about that.
Well, what inspired me about helping people is, I believe every little help you give to humanity makes a difference. I feel joy to help people. I have helped countless people, not because I am rich. There are days I don't even have $1 on my own. There were times I will even go and borrow money just to help people. I have 5 children. In Australia, it's not an easy thing to raise a family here, especially with 5 children. But whenever I invest into someone else, that investment to me is like I'm investing into my own very self. So helping people is not for the people, but for yourself, because you are leaving a legacy. There are 2 things involved: legacy, prosperity. We have seen in history, nobody that is so prosperous that would die without leaving a legacy that their memories live on. Because when you die, people you don't even expect to come and take over will come and take over. But when you invest into people, be it big or small, it lives on. Especially investing into children, vulnerable kids who has little or no hope. When you invest into them, it lives on. As we speak, there are kids who have gone through university through the support I give out, not because I'm rich. For over 14 years now, I have been supporting children with education, families. I also support aged people in the age of 90 and 100. I support those also in the background. I just believe that what the Bible says, do good unto others as you want them to do unto you. If we want a better society, we have to be part of the building of that society. And viewers, you don't need to have a lot to help people. Out of the little you have, you can impact lives. And some of those lives you will impact may become like a tsunami to reach other people. If you remember the story of one of the greatest evangelists that ever lived, the South Korean evangelist that died.
It's Young Cho.
Young Cho. Yeah. Young Cho was the only person that came out when they called for utter call. When they had a very massive crusade planned and they called for utter call, he only came out. And out of one man, millions of people were touched. Yeah. So don't say, oh, what will my help do? If I have only $5, what would that $5 do? In Australia, they say from little things, big things grow. Yeah. So every help you give to people is going to definitely make an impact. And I believe helping people brings joy. It gives you peace. Yeah. Because like there are times when I receive calls from places like Kenya, Morocco, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, people I don't even know. Sometimes people will call me, they'll just say, Isaiah. I say, who is this? Oh, somebody gave me your number. I'm in this so trouble, but I don't know how to go about it. I need your help. On many occasions, I ask myself, what is happening to me? I don't have money. I have nothing. But people are just calling. But in all of this, God always finds a way to replenish. Yeah. He always do. And don't stop doing good. Because if we want a better future for children yet unborn, we have to be a part of it. Change can never be possible if you are not the change. God richly bless everyone listening. In Jesus' name.
Amen. And thank you very much to you for taking your time, for joining us on this platform today. And that brings us to the end of today's discussion. We truly appreciate your time and most especially value the experiences that you have shared here. And we pray that God will continue to strengthen you and give you more wisdom as you continue to make impact, in the lives of many people. And please don't forget to like, share this video. You can stay connected through our social platforms on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Until next time, stay safe and be blessed.
God bless.